Okay, so when Jack invited me, I was going to come anyway. He said, you know, we want you to talk about the steelhead. And I said, oh, what could I possibly tell all of you people that you don't already know? I mean, we have elders from the ancient nation here. We have PhDs from Stanford, and we've got winemakers and vineyard growers and professional engineers and water people. What could I possibly tell you? So I said, Jack, send me some literature. I could read a song or a poem. And he put it on the telephone, but I don't have the app, so I couldn't read it. So I'm sitting against the old adobe wall, and it was just a few days ago, and I'm pondering, what can I tell these people that they don't already know? When a little junco bird flew from the tree above my front door, and it's an old vineyard, wine vineyard, and roses just sat at my feet. And usually the little juncos and the sparrows come and they peck like this, right? And I give them seed. Well, this time he wasn't pecking. And he came up and he hopped closer up onto my armrest and he cocked his head and he said, hey, Timmy. He said, I understand you're stumped about trying to figure out what to tell all the people at the Carmel Valley Trail and Saddle Club, something they don't already know. I said, well, first I thought, this bird is speaking to me without talking and I'm understanding it, and I said yes, without speaking and talking back. I said yes, that's absolutely true. I'm completely stumped. I have no idea what to tell all these intellectual and smart people at the Carmel Valley Trail and Saddle Club, something that they don't already know. He said, follow me, follow me, follow me. So I said, let me get my hat and my stick, and I put on some slippers. And I followed him to the front gate, and he took me down the road, and I ended up at the river. The beautiful headwaters of the San Antonio. He said, follow me, follow me. And I went up the river to a big pool. The first time I had been to that pool, I was 9 years old, and I'm 62 now. Okay, and he flew away. So I'm sitting on the big rock, looking at the clear crystal pool at the base of the granite and limestone peak. And I look down and I see the reflection of the beautiful trees, and I see the sky, and I see the reflection of my face. Gray now, and my memories went back to when I was a little boy in the river chasing the steelhead and playing and swimming. When all of a sudden, out from underneath a deep rock in the clear crystal pool at the base of the granite peak, the granite and limestone peak, came a big white jaw and a nose, and then a speckled head, and then a big head, and then the fins, and the tail, and below me was a 3-pound, 24-inch steelhead trout. And he circled, and he came up to me and he rolled his eye. He said, hey, Timmy. He spoke to me without talking, and I said, yes. He said, I sent the junco to get you because I understand you're stumped. You have no idea what to tell all the people at the Carmel Valley Trail Club, something they don't already know. I said, you're absolutely right. What am I going to do? He says, I have a very old story to tell you. Long, 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 long time ago, when the Creator created this earth, and the sun and the moon and all the stars, and all the life, He left two great spirits to protect us and to feed us and to care for us. One was the ocean, who lived in the bottom of the great blue salty sea. And the other was the river, who lived at the clear mountain pools at the base of the granite and limestone cliffs. And there was a very old understanding, an ancient agreement, and that the sea, sit down, sit down, sit down, this is a good story. That the ocean, the great spirit of the ocean, who lived at the bottom of the great salty blue sea, would come to the surface and create fresh water out of salt water. It's a miracle. And He would take these metric tons and tons, millions of tons of water, and He would take them up into the sky, into the heavens, and He would create these huge thunderclouds, thunderheads, and He would create mists and fog. And with the Father, the Son, and the Grandmother Moon, He would create heat and cold, and He would blow these millions and millions of pounds, tons of metric, fresh, clean water into the land. And with it, it would bring the mist and the fog that would saturate our coastlines. It would bring the sprinkles and the rain. And it would bring the thunder showers and the downpours and the snow. And it would cover the land. And the agreement was, with the river, it must return what was given. I give, you receive, you give, I receive. And so the river, a very powerful spirit, said, I will take this, receive this, and I will pass it on down. From the great snows in the mountains, it would fill the rivers, lakes, streams, and springs, and giant aquifers in the land, and all would be fed. Not only that, but the river promised to feed the people. So as the water cascaded down through the cascades, it would bring sediments and sands and bugs and leaves. It would grind this stuff up like this, and it would distribute it throughout the water. And in the great cascades, it would create oxygen for all to live. All those that lived in the air, all those that lived in the water, all the plants, these trees around you, all are dependent on this. And it would flow down through the river. It would feed all the fish and the frogs and everybody, the birds, everybody would drink. And when it got to the great estuaries, the great bays, these are the nurseries of all aquatic life, freshwater aquatic life. It would feed them, and then, like when you play with a garden hose, when you were a kid, and it would whip back and forth across the lawn. Well, the great river, this powerful spirit, would go back and forth and create these great sandbars and evenly distribute all of the nutrients necessary to feed not only the life on land, but the life in the sea. It fed the seagrass, it fed the kelp, it fed the angel hair, it fed the shrimp, it fed the crustacean life, the plankton life, the tiny life, everything. Think about it, the crulu, the snowy plover, the sand dipper, the brant geese, everybody, and it would feed the anchovies and the sardines. Oh, the sardines. This was the life for all the salmon, the halibut, the johnny bass, the calico bass, the sea bass, the giant sea bass, the bonita and the mackerel, the yellowtail and all the tunas, the yellowfin, bluefin, and the great albacore. And they would also feed all the sea lions, the great turtles, the pelicans, and of course the great whales. And then of course when it was received, the ocean, as promised, this ancient agreement, where the ocean would go from the bottom of the great blue salty sea, he would come up to the surface, and again he would create water. And so he would send it to the mountain, and it would come down, and it would go down to the river, and it would be given, and it would go back up. And so you had this great cycle, this huge cycle of earth. Well, like great spirits are, they think they're the most important. And the great ocean, who lived at the bottom of the deep salty sea, would often argue, and he would yell out with his thunder, I am the most powerful in all the world. All life comes from me. I create the water. And the river would say, yeah, you're not the greatest. I'm the one who distributes it. And I feed everyone on land, and I feed everyone on sea. Well, the Creator got tired of this. He said, I got a lot of things to do. I got Africa. I got South America. I got Antarctica. I got New Zealand and Australia. I got a lot of things I got to do. I can't just deal with this little Pacific coast here. It's important. I got whole other species in other parts of the world that need attention, my attention. So he called all of his animals, all of his birds, all of his fish, and all of the wildlife, and he said, I need a messenger. I need a special messenger that can go from both worlds. The world of the great blue salty sea to the high mountain clear pool at the base of the granite and limestone mountain. And the first to come was the orca, the great orca, and the great orca said, look at me, I am the king of the sea. I go from the Bering Sea to Baja, Mexico. There is none more powerful than me. It's nothing for me on a high tide with a high river to breach the sandbar and swim up the river. But he tried, and he got to the cascading falls, and he failed, and he had to turn and go back. Then the giant sea lion, he said, oh, I can do this easy. I can outrun the orca. I don't have to wait for a high tide. Well, I'll just flip up across the sandbar, and I'll walk right across Highway 1 if I want to. Who's going to stop me? I'm 1,000 pounds. I'll get into the estuary, I'll swim up there, and when he got to the Cascading Falls, he tried and tried, but he could not get over the Cascading Falls, and he had to return to the sea. Well, the great condor came, and the eagle came from Cone Peak, and they said, Oh, we're the most powerful. We drink from the mountain stream, the clear stream at the base of the granite and the limestone cliffs. We talk with the river all the time. It's nothing for us to fly to the Sierra Nevadas in an hour. It's nothing for us to fly from Cone Peak to the feeding station at Big Sur in 15 minutes. This will be easy. And we'll fly out to sea, and they both flew out to sea, 200 miles from Cone Peak, and they looked at the sea and they dove into the sea, but they could not swim to the bottom of the great blue salty sea and talk to the ocean. So they had to return. The bear also tried. He failed. Everyone failed when finally the salmon showed up. Thousands and thousands of salmon. The great Chinooks from the Elwha came. The giant kings from the Columbia came. The Cohos from Gaviota and the Ventura came. The Silvers came. The Sockeye from the great Bristol Bay came. Thousands and thousands of salmon came to the Creator and said, send us. We are warriors. We are legion. There's nothing for us. We go from Alaska to Mexico. We can do all the streams, all the streams. We can do the Elwha. We can do the Mighty Ho. We can do the Columbia. We can do the Klamath and the Trinity and the Mad and the Eel. But we can go up the great American and river, the Sacramento. No problem. We'll go to San Lorenzo and the great Salinas River and the Carmel. And we'll go around the corner to the Big Sur and all the little drainages all the way down to San Luis Obispo. And then we'll go around the corner to the Gaviota, and we'll go to Mission Creek and Santa Monica Creek and the San Jose, and we'll head on down to the great Ventura River. And we'll also go into the Malibu, all the way to the Tijuana River. We are legion. There are millions of us. Someone will get through to the great pool, clear pool at the top, at the base of the great granite and limestone peak. And so they all left. And they waited for the right time, the high tide, but many were eaten. The orca ate many, the sea lions ate many. But they waited, and there were still many, and they breached the sandbar, and they got into the bays and the estuaries where they were caught by fishermen and by eagles, by bears, but many made it. And the many made it to the Cascading Falls, and when they got to the Cascading Falls, many were speared by the man and eaten by the bear, but many made it. The great strength of these Chinooks, kings, they could jump 10 feet, make it through. They finally made it. Many, many made it, but many were lost. But to the beautiful, clear pool at the base of the great granite and limestone mountain. Okay, now, a salmon is telling me this, guys. I'm sitting there, I cannot believe this. This fish he's telling me this story. He's speaking without talking, and I'm stunned, but I'm still listening. Because that's one thing I learned to do living alone for 44 years in the Big Sur is listen. You need to learn. It's in your DNA. Why do you think you're sitting in the shade? It's your DNA. You know to get out of the sun. Many of us have just forgot. So I'll go on with my story. We have made it, they said. We talked to the river. We have made it, and we've brought word, the agreement, the ancient agreement. We've brought it to you. Will you please take the gift and give back to the river? Or to the sea? And the river said, yes. You may go. The message has been received. You may return. Oh, great river, we are tired. We are wounded warriors. Many of us are dying. We need to rest. The clear mountain pool at the base of the great granite and limestone peak. We need to rest. And when they rested, they laid their eggs. And the males would cover the eggs with the milk into clear mountain water. And then they died. They all died. And the raven fed on their bodies, and the bear fed on their bodies, and the seagull fed on their bodies, and the condor fed on their bodies. And those part of the bodies they didn't eat decomposed. And that at decomposition were the nutrients that mixed with the leaves and soils and the sand and the oxygen and the cascading falls and went down and fed all the living creatures. And man took the water from the great aquifers and he made vineyards and he built houses all over the place. Shopping centers. I mean, it was wonderful. Cities. And it kept going, and it breached the sandbar like a garden hose, just evenly distributing all this wonderful stuff. The essence of the salmon mixed with all the nutrients from the granite and limestone peaks and fed all the life in the sea. Well, the Creator's sitting there at the bottom of the great blue salty sea waiting for his messengers, and no one comes back but one voice. I have returned. I have returned, it said. I have returned with a message. The ancient agreement is kept. The river has returned. Will you now go from the great bottoms of the great salty sea and create the water magically from the salt water, create the fresh water, and take it in to the land so the cycle and the ancient agreement can continue? I can't see you. Who am I talking to, said the Creator. I can't see you. Let's go to the surface. The Creator went to the surface and waited. And out of the water, 5 feet in the air, was the steelhead. And you could tell because he had the big red on his gill plate and the beautiful rainbow on his tail. Oh, it's you, little steelhead. Of course. I forgot about you, said the Creator. With so many things to do, it's easy to forget, like a lot of us. You probably know the story, but you forgot. I created you to go between both worlds. Yes, of course, I remember now. I was busy with giraffes and rhinoceroses and all these other incredible animals that I had to create. You are the messenger between the two worlds. Now, I sat on the rock and I said, I know, that's what I can tell. He said, you tell the people that. They probably haven't heard that. They've gone to Stanford and they're very intelligent people and they read everything, but I don't think anyone will know this story, especially if you tell them. Well, be very careful if you tell them that a fish told you this story. They might think you're crazy. I said, no, I'm very proud. I'm a warrior myself and I will tell you this story. I fought many battles and I will tell you this story. Oh, one more thing before you go, Timmy. I said, yes, what is that? He said, well, I've been sitting in this pool since 1946. I said, what? He said, yeah, I can talk to the river, but I can't get past, San Antonio Dam. I can't get past it. And all my relatives have the same problem. We're stuck high up in these high pools, but we cannot take the message, the ancient agreement to the ocean. And my relatives, they can talk to the ocean, but they cannot get past the dam and talk. So we got a problem. And that's why I think maybe the ocean is angry, and maybe the river's angry. And I thought on this, and I thought, wow, there's no snow in the Sierras. There's no snow behind Cone Peak. Usually May and June, and it melts in July. And my rivers are going dry, and the aquifers of Paso Robles and Cambria are going dry. And I think they got some pretty serious water problems in Carmel. And that the ocean levels are coming up and rising, and they're pulling fresh water out of the deep wells in Castroville. And oh my gosh, yes, I thought to myself. And he looked at me and he said, I understand. I thought more on this, of the great die-offs of the sardines and the Long Beach and Newport harbors, because they don't have the oxygen or the nutrients anymore. And the thousands of baby sea lions that died this year because their mothers can't feed on the fish and have no milk. We have some serious problems, I thought. He said, you tell that. And I said, well, the people here are smart. They probably already know that. He said, you tell them about this ancient agreement, and they will decide what to do. Because the Creator created them too. Thank you.